Alright, what's up, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. I'm here with a really chill, relax video. We're just going to be talking about the oaths from the set Oath of the Gatewatch, and Liliana's is from Eldritch Moon. I'm running them, most all of them in Super Friends, and so I was like, you know what, it would kind of be a cool idea if I could just kind of talk about them as an overview, because I'm going to be doing my Super Friends deck tech soon, but a lot of times, the deck tech, I'm talking about a lot of cards, and I don't really get to talk about each of the cards in depth as much as I want to, so I did really want to film this and wanted to break down all the oaths for you guys and what my thoughts are on them, because I play with 4 out of the 5 of them, and I've been playing with the deck for, couple weeks now. So, let's get into it. So this is in absolutely no particular order, this is just the order that I grabbed them in. The first oath is Oath of Gideon, and Oath of Gideon is really good because it does 2 very, very important things. Now, one of the issues that can arise in Super Friends is how do you protect your planeswalkers, because some versions run absolutely no creatures. My version runs a couple of creatures that are mana dorks. I run Solemn Simulacrum, Farhaven Elf. I run other things and I don't remember what. Oh, Sakura Tribe Elder. But those are very, very, that's not a lot. I don't run a lot of creatures. I think I may run 5 or something. And they all do stuff. They all provide me mana or whatever. So when you have cards that not only make you dudes, this card makes you tokens, and them being 1/1s isn't really the most relevant thing. They could be 3/3s, it doesn't matter. It could be 1/3/3, it honestly doesn't matter, but I do like that it gives you 2 creatures because you really want to protect your planeswalkers. You do have an issue kind of with trample because the trample damage will just come over and roar it into your planeswalker, but if you just make tokens so that you can protect your planeswalkers, that's what you really, really need to do. So Oath of Gideon is really good for that one reason. And on top of that, they could have just stopped it right at that and maybe give him some other ability that wasn't super relevant. But on top of that, they gave him the fact that each of your planeswalkers enters with an additional loyalty counter. This is really, really important. Now, something that happens with Super Friends is sometimes you get a planeswalker and you have doubling season and it ults and it just goes away and it just dies, it goes to the graveyard, but you're you know what, it'd be really sweet if that planeswalker stuck around because the abilities can still be super relevant. There's some planeswalkers where when you get their ult off, their ult is really devastating, but you still want that planeswalker to stick around because their other abilities are really, really good. So Oath of Gideon is really good for giving that additional loyalty so that some of your planeswalkers don't necessarily die. Another really good thing about this too is that if someone gets rid of Oath of Gideon, you don't really care because it already really did its job. It provided you 2 dudes, which is really cool, and yeah, the second ability is relevant, but if they Reclamation Sage it, it's not the most devastating thing in the world. But overall the card is really good. To me, it's really just a no-brainer. It's an absolute essential in Super Friends. It's just really good. I like it a lot. It's also 3 mana, so 3 mana to make 2 dudes and to have each of your planeswalkers enter with additional counter is just really good. I like it. Okay, this is the only oath that I actually don't run, and a lot of people were wow, you should run it, because I have a beautiful playset of oaths. They're all foil, they're really great. If you saw my video where I talked about the deck, and you'll see it in my deck tech, but I have I think 3 promo oaths, and which, by the way, I think I got Oath of Nissa as one of my promos, and that promo is $8, which is awesome, because I love timestamps. I've said that before, I love timestamp cards, so yeah, all my notes are super beautiful. And then Oath of Jace is randomly in Chinese or Japanese, I can't remember, one of those, probably Japanese. I like Japanese cards, but I don't run Oath of Chandra, and I don't really know why. I just don't think she's as strong as she could be. She's kind of a mini Perforos, but instead of creatures, it's planeswalkers. And you know what? When you're running this deck, you're only running, I think my list right now is running 26 planeswalkers, maybe 25. So I'm only running 20, it's only 1/4 of the deck is planeswalkers. So it's really not that much. So the whole thing about every time you get to do a planeswalker ETBs, you just get to do 2 damage to each opponent. If it was creature or player, maybe, or if it was like 3 damage, I'd be like, okay, it's kind of like lightning bolts every time, but you're not going to be like getting planeswalkers. And what happens if a planeswalker, okay, so yeah, if you have multiple planeswalkers, they trigger this, but like, honestly, I don't think it's that good. And then, like, you know, ETBs and gets to do 3 damage to something. I mean, it's just, to me, it's very underwhelming. Like, I haven't really seen, like, the, wow, like, this card must be really good. Like, I definitely need to include it in Super Friends. Like, I just feel like it doesn't do enough. And maybe I'll try it out in the future just so that I can complete my, like, beautiful playsets, my beautiful, like, set of the Oaths. But, like, to me, I just don't think there's enough to her to justify her in the deck. And you know what? The list, what I really love about the Super Friends list, there's a lot of reasons why I really like it. And one of the things that really attracts me towards it is the fact that it is such a flexible list. Like, you can do so much with this list, which is awesome. Like, you know, you have, like, your set of planeswalkers, and like I said, that takes up a 1/4 of the deck. And then you have your lands, and that's, like, 35, 36, 37 cards, whatever. And the remaining cards, you know, there's some staples. I'm actually going to be doing a video talking about Super Friends, like, essentials, like, cards that are just, like, needed in the deck. Maybe. I'm not too sure. I'm going to film the deck first and then see, but, yeah, like, but I want to talk about, like, maybe, like, my all-time 10, like, staples that aren't planeswalkers and that aren't oaths, like, other cards. And, like, hold on, I was totally saying a thought with this, and, oh, it just poofed. Guys, what was I talking about? I need, like, a little secretary or something that I could just be like, yo, what was I talking about? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, yeah, like, the list. So, like, you have so much room in this list to do a lot of things that you want. There's a couple of, like, essential cards, like I said, but there's so much room to really do what you want, and I think that's awesome. Like, I think this is, to me, one of the decks that you can just, like, all ADH decks are really like this, but, like, you can just be so flexible and do whatever you want, and I think that's awesome. So, I feel like, to me, like, if you really don't, like, if you're like, yeah, you know, like, I have a room, I have an extra card slot, nothing really going on right now, but it's a card I may cut in the future, go ahead and add it and see how you like it. But to me, it's just kind of been a thing where I was like, you know what, I just don't think I really need it right now. Who knows though, maybe in the future it'll prove to be something pretty okay. What I am thinking about is, though, with Oath of Chandra is, I run in the deck, right now I run Venser. I'm going to talk about Venser at the end, but Venser blinks things, so it's really good if you're, like, minusing a planeswalker and you want it to go back up to loyalty. Venser's just amazing. We'll talk about him in a bit. But I also really want to run Kaya, the new planeswalker from Conspiracy. She's awesome, by the way. I really need to foil one of her, which is like $1 million. It's like 100, but I really need it because it's just beautiful. But like, I really want that planeswalker, but her thing is kind of like, you know, I think you blink her, right? Is that like, am I like thinking of the, here, let's see. I really don't like it when Google like doesn't know what I'm talking about. Like, I start typing in a magic card and I'm like, you should know what I'm talking about, Google. You really shouldn't. What is her thing? You blink her, right? And up to one target creature, return them. Yeah, so like it's an ETB, so if you're doing some sort of like synergy with that where you're like blinking things, that's really good. Because you're blinking Kaya. By the way, she's really nuts. I'm really stoked. I really need to pick her up. She's so good. She's just so good. You know, you just blink something. Oh man, she's I like her a lot. By the way, do you guys know why Kaya doesn't have any plus abilities? Because she's loyal to no one. I think that's funny. Alright, cool. You don't think it's funny? It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. So, yeah, that is Oath of Shandra and my feelings about it, but I'd really like to know if you guys have played with this card before. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's worthy? Do you think I should get it for the carded, like, the extra card slot in my deck? Because, let's be real here, I could always just move things around. The deck list isn't, because it's still, like, I just built it recently. I'm still, like, tweaking some things, and I'm still, like, you know, there's room for a little change. But, like, a deck like my Tassigreedy Chick is, like, my list is so tight that I'm, like, I don't even know what to take out. So, yeah. Okay, then we're going to talk about Oath of Liliana. Let me tell you guys, when Oath of Liliana got released, when it got revealed, I was so excited because Liliana's like my favorite planeswalker. She's always just, to me, she's just been like really sweet. It's really sad to like be like, oh, she's my favorite. Like, I just really like her, and I like her flavor. I like her whole, like, I just think she's like sweet. I just think she's really awesome, and, you know, when this came out, like, I was just really stoked for the flavor of this card, because her whole, like, flavor text is, you know, like, I'll keep watch happy now, and I'm not someone who usually pays attention to flavor text, but, like, she's just sweet. And her art is just really great. So basically, EDTB is each opponent sacks a creature. This is really good in the early game. Also, keep in mind it's a sack a creature. It doesn't say destroy a creature. You know why this is really, really, really relevant? Because people run those big, dumb, not planeswalkers, those big, dumb Eldrazi that are indestructible. By the way, Ulamog, I've decided, is actually just the bane of my existence, because there's been so many instances where I'm, like, running, like, green, and I'm like, how on earth do I answer this card? White is good because you have, like, Path. But that's about it. And, like, I'm just like, how on earth do I deal with this card? It's just, oh my god. Merciless Eviction, that's how you deal with that card. By the way, that card's nuts. That card is insane. Let me tell you my love for that card. There's been so many instances where I'm like, yo, we know what card I really need right now? Merciless Eviction. Yeah, Yep, definitely. Okay, so Liliana. She does two things that you kind of want to. The sack ability, you know, sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not. If your opponent's playing, like, and they've got some creatures that they don't really care about, they've already done its job, whatever, that's not really relevant. But what's really relevant, I think, is the second ability. Like I said before, similar to Oath of Gideon, you really, really, really want things that give you tokens in the deck. And when you really think about how the deck functions, what's going to provide you tokens is your planeswalkers, and what else? Like, what else is going to provide you tokens? And the fact that these oats do two things that are relevant in the game is really good. Like I said, I think that her first ability isn't, like, the most relevant thing, but it could be. It honestly could be. Like, if you're in the early stages of the game, or if you're running a lot of board wipes and someone just, again, like, taps out for the turn to play their big dumb Eldrazi, and you're like, you know what, cool, sacrifice it. That can be really relevant. So it's kind of like, it's not a mini board wipe, but it's just kind of a mini removal spell, but for all opponents. It also doesn't say you, which I really like. It's opponents, which is really relevant. Hold on. I just got distracted by this beautiful Liliana art. You know how it says, like, suggested things, and then you, like, I just get distracted by sweet Liliana art. Okay, that's cool. Anyways, so, yeah, and the fact that she makes a dude, you know, if you have a Planeswalker enter, is really, really good. It's just, you need token, you just need token gen, you need some way to protect your planeswalkers. And okay, now we're going to be talking about, yeah, just the best Oath of Nissa. This is kind of just an essential in Super Friends DH, because I honestly can't believe this card is 1 mana. Like, this is one of those cards that I look at and I'm just like, how? This card is just broken in, like, it's just so good. Okay, so first, let's look at the first ability. You know what? You either get a creature, land, or a planeswalker. Creatures may not be super relevant if you're not running a lot of creatures or any creatures at all, but the land thing is, like, really relevant, especially since, you know, a lot of builds are running, my build's running 5 colors, some builds are running, you know, multiple colors, like 3, whatever. So that's really cool. So you get a land. Or, you know what, you get a planeswalker. And keep in mind, you're only looking at the top 3 cards. So, like, you don't necessarily have a great chance of getting a planeswalker, because, like I said, they only take up a 4th of your deck. You know, you have more lands than you do planeswalkers. So you're more likely to get something like that. So this is really relevant. And the fact that this is just a mini chromatic lantern just stapled onto a thing is really, really, really good. Now, my builds, I'm doing a lot of, not mana rocks, like mana acceleration, so that I can get my colors, for 2 reasons. I'm doing it so I can get my colors, but also because, like, there's a lot of things that, you know, you want to, do multiple things in a turn. You want to cast multiple planeswalkers in a turn, whatever. So, yeah, she's, like, really good, at that. But just any mana, and this is really relevant if you're doing, like, you know, your mana base is probably going to be a little bit all over the place because you're running so many colors, and 5-color decks can get a little bit tricky at that point. So the fact that you can just any mana you can use to get it. You know, I'm always still very cautious of getting like my colors. Like I'm always like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what colors I get. You know, to me I'm always just like, well, someone could just destroy this. You know, you run this and Chromatic Lantern, so you have like a great chance of drawing. You have a better chance of drawing one of those. And Chromatic Lantern, you know, taps for a color. Even if you have both out, you know, even this ETB effect is just really, really good. So yeah, it just, or if someone destroys one or the other, you know, it's just so good. Just Oath of Nissa is like by far the best oath, especially because it's only 1 mana. I would have been like totally fine if this card was like 2 mana, but the fact that you can play it on turn 1, this is like one of the best turn 1 moves in the deck. Honestly, I think it's better in my opinion than Soul Ring, I think. In this deck, I do think it is. So overall, it's just, you need this card, it's just really, really good. So the last oath we're going to be talking about is Oath of Jace. And Oath of Jace I really like, and I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's not really like one of the best oaths. I think it's really sweet because, you know what, you don't have, in my deck at least, you don't have a lot of card draw, and the fact that you just draw 3 with this is like really good. Yeah, you have to discard 2, but you know what, whatever, you just get to draw cards, and I love drawing cards, so I'm a fan of that. And you know what, you get to scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. Honestly, even if you just have like 1 planeswalker, the fact that you just get to scry is like really awesome, because you know what, like I said, the fact that you just have, anytime you have like access to information, you just have like, you know, times where you can just like see what's going on top of your deck, because a lot of times you really need to draw that board wipe, and Oath of Jace is going to get you closer to that, especially with your drawing cards, things like that. So overall, I do think he's really sweet. Not actually, I haven't really drawn him. I think he's the one that I've drawn the least. But I remember like when I forgot what his first ability was, and like I said, because mine's in Japanese, I was like, yo, what does his first ability do? And then I read it and I was like, yo, that's a major card advantage. I like that a lot. Especially if you know, like you're doing it like me, where you have a lot of mana things, so you're like, you know what, I don't really need all these lands in my hand, because whatever. It's just really, really good, so I like it. But now I really want to talk about a card that synergizes really, really well with the oaths. And the reason why Venser got much better, in my opinion. I'm talking about the Planeswalker Venser, though the Creature Venser is really good, and that card's nuts, and I really like it a lot. But Planeswalker Venser. Planeswalker Venser, in my opinion, before was kind of mediocre with Planeswalkers, before the oaths, because you were like, okay, you know, blink my land. I've blinked my Solemn Simulacrum, and that's been really sweet. I will admit, yeah, you don't get the die trigger, but you just get to like continuously get a land, which is really sweet. Venser synergizes really well with that, and I'm honestly trying to think of what else in the deck it synergizes with. It's just, like I said, it's good for the land thing because you get to do that, but it synergizes super well with the oaths because they flicker and you get that ETB effect back again. Venser just got a million times better, especially because his minus is probably not the most relevant thing. It's probably not something that you're going to want to be doing, especially because you really want Venser to ult. You just really want him to ult because every time you cast a spell you get to exile something. Yep, sounds good to me. So I remember one game, I blinked Oath of Gideon probably like 4 times and got a lot of dudes. It's like 3, I lied. That's really good. Oath of Chandra, you know, lightning bolt something every time. He sounds good to me. Oath of Liliana, everyone sacks creature. Oath of Nissa, I get to look at the top 3 cards and potentially get, you know, like another planeswalker out of them. Sounds good. Oath of Jace, I get to draw 3, discard 2. Sounds good. Venser, to me, and the oaths are like best friends. If you're running all of the oaths or some of the oaths, I honestly think, like, I think that Venser is a card that it like, people run it for the ultimate, but a lot of people don't realize that you don't always have doubling season, and sometimes you just need to go the slow way, and you really need to uptake your planeswalkers before you can ult them, which, you know, how you use them. But like, the fact that you just need to you need to uptick your planeswalkers, and you want their abilities to be relevant, and a lot of times what's kind of maybe frustrating about planeswalkers is sometimes their possibilities aren't the most relevant thing, like Sarkhan Vol, in my opinion. You know, his plus gives a creature like +1/+1 haste and lifelink, and you're not running a lot of creatures, so that's not really relevant, and if you are generating creatures, you don't really want to be attacking with them because you want them to protect your planeswalkers. It's just not one of the most relevant abilities of a planeswalker, but you really want his ult because then you get 5/6/6 dragons, and that's really sweet. So the fact that with Venser, you know, like, people run him in the deck for his ultimate, but you need things to make his plus, like, if you want his plus to be good, you know, running things like Solemn Simulacrum and the Oats are going to be really, really good because they work really well together. And like I said, just, you know, flickering Oath of Gideon and getting 2 dudes and swinging with those dudes that could attack and then making more to block my planeswalkers, which is really nuts. So definitely look into that if you are building Super Friends. Definitely look into Venser and look into these Oats. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think are going to be some good things. What's your favorite? Like I said, if I had to like rank, it's kind of tough, but Oath of Nissa is definitely like my number one. I gotta say then Oath of Gideon, then Oath of Jace, then Liliana, then Chandra. Those are like my order of how I think them. And that was just me completely making like it up off the spot. I didn't even think about that before. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.